Okay, this quick slideshow from Bluenotes2.com, Bluenotes Basketball 65 channel here on um, YouTube for the Big East Media Day 2020. Uh, Big East Media Day was last Wednesday, the 28th, and I put a link to John Fanta's notebook uh, on the bottom of the page here, and let's get rolling. The Big East Preseason Coaches Poll 2020. Of course, you have to take this with a grain of salt because the Coaches Poll has not been all that accurate over the last 7 years. But for what it's worth, here it is again for 2020. Villanova's first, Creighton, Providence third, Connecticut fourth, which is somewhat of a surprise. Seton Hall fifth, which is also somewhat of a surprise. Marquette sixth, Xavier, Butler eighth, St. John's nine, DePaul out of the basement, and Georgetown takes their place at the bottom of the standing. There's a link here for the coaches poll. All these links link back to the BigEast.com and their takes and their and a couple of articles on the Big East Media Day. This goes into particulars about the individual teams on the coaches poll. Nova first, Creighton, Providence third, Connecticut fourth. Let's read the Connecticut here. Connecticut, which has returned to the Big East this season after a 7-year absence, edged Seton Hall for fourth place. The Huskies garnered 69 points in the poll to Seton Hall 67. UConn won 9 of their last 12 games last season to finish 19-12. Sophomore guard James Bouknight is being counted on to be one of the Husky leaders. Seton Hall was 21-9 overall, while grabbing a share of the regular season title last year with Villanova and Creighton. Pirates have to replace Big East Player of the Year Miles Powell, but have two solid returning starters for Sandro Mamukashvili and Miles Kale. Marquette 6th, Xavier 7th, Butler 8th. Butler is slotted for 8th place for the second straight season. Last year, the Bulldogs finished 5th after compiling a 10-8 Big East record and a 22-9 overall mark. I keep telling you guys, people are underestimating and overlooking Butler. Butler welcomes back 3 returning starters. The usual stingy defense will be anchored by senior guard Aaron Thompson. St. John's is a few points behind the Bulldogs in 9th place. Red Storm are in the second year Coach Mike Anderson's era and can count on a pair of returning starters and some promising newcomers to fit in Anderson's pressing style. Guard Rasheem Dunn is the top returning scorer, and forward Julian Champagne made the Big East all-freshman team. Rounding out this is DePaul and Georgetown in 10th and 11th place, respectively. Sean Brennan has his assessment, and the link, again, is at the bottom. One thing has remained the same, pandemic or not. That would be Villanova being crowned the top dog in a Big East preseason coaches poll. The rest of the poll saw Creighton finish second. Providence third, newcomer and old friend UConn grabbed 4th place, while Seton Hall took 5th. The second half of the conference saw Marquette slotted in 6th spot, followed by Xavier in 7th, Butler in 8th. St. John's tapped for 9th place, with DePaul and Georgetown finishing 10th and 11th, respectively. I skipped over the top six or top five and went straight to tier three in my look at Brennan's assessment. Marquette's head coach Steve Wojciechowski is headed into the post-Marcus Howard world and knows his team will have huge shoes to fill. What you have to do is take up those losses collectively, especially on the offensive end. To that end, we will introduce Marquette's 6'11 freshman Dawson Garcia, the centerpiece of Wojo's top 25 recruiting class and the Big East preseason freshman of the year. According to Wojo, Dawson's got a really bright future, he says. He's the guy who has tremendous versatility. He's got a really good competitive spirit and motor. He wants to get better, and he brings a high level of effort each and every day. He's a kid who has a chance to have a huge impact on us winning this year, unquote. On to Xavier. Xavier didn't finish particularly well last season, losing 3 straight to close out the season, including a loss to DePaul in the first round of the Big East tournament. So does that bitter taste still linger with the Musketeers? You bet it does. According to Zach Fremantle, the sophomore, most definitely said sophomore Zach Fremantle, especially that loss to DePaul. I really just can't wait to start playing again. And getting picked 7th, yeah, that didn't sit too well with Fremantle either. Quote, I'm not really concerned with any preseason ranking. That doesn't really matter at all. We're just trying to come out on top. That's all that matters to us, unquote. Lots of players will have to up their game a notch or 3. Look for 6'9" senior Jason Carter and sophomore guard Kiki Tandy to be 2 of those players who will support senior guard Paul Scruggs, a preseason second team pick. On to Butler. Butler landed in the 8th spot due mostly to the loss of Kamar Baldwin, the backbone of the Bulldogs for the past several seasons. But Aaron Thompson, the human assist machine, returns along with Bryce Nees, a preseason second team selection, and Bryce Golden. The Bulldogs lost 6 of their top 9 scorers, so there's lots of offensive holes to fix. But Thompson said he is up to the task. Quote, coming up under Baldwin, he was one of the best leaders I've been around, so I think he prepared me for the job, unquote, Thompson said. Tier 4. St. John's head coach Mike Anderson looked at his Johnnies being picked 9th in the poll for the second year in a row and simply said, quote, it's not where you start, it's where you finish, unquote. True. And if Anderson is right about his team this year, they should improve on their 17 overall wins of a year ago. Quote, Rasheem Dunn will be better this year. Julian Champagne will be better. Greg Williams will be better, Anderson said. And quote, I think some of the freshmen we have coming in, like Posh Alexander, he's going to be an exciting player in our program. Vince Cole, as well as Isaiah Moore, will also contribute. But the guy I'm really excited about is Arnaldo Toro, a guy with experience, an older guy. There's a lot of pieces, and as a coach, you got to put them all together. So we just want to pick up the momentum we had at the end of last year, unquote. DePaul saw Paul Reed leave the program, but in preseason first team selection Charlie Moore and Monmouth transfer Ray Salnave, the Demons should be able to pile up some points in the backcourt. DePaul also brought in Manhattan College transfer Paulie Polycap, a rebounding force with the Jaspers, to help pick up some of the slack left by Reed's departure. Something else to look for will be the continued growth of sophomore Romeo Weems, who averaged 8 points and 5 rebounds last season and made the Big East all-freshman team. Weems said, I feel like I prepared for this season and I'm waiting for the challenges ahead. Last year I was guarding the best players every game, and that was a big challenge. So now I'm ready to give a second push and hope for a better season, unquote. Perhaps no program endured more tumult in the past year than Georgetown. The departures of program building blocks, James Kenjo, Mac McClung, and Joshua Blank. Then head coach Pat Ewing contracted coronavirus last spring, and then finally last month brought the passing of the legendary former Hoya coach John Thompson. If better days are ahead for the Warriors on the court, then holdovers Javon Blair and Jamorko Pickett will have to elevate their games. And 6'11 sophomore Kudus Wahab will have to begin to become the next great big man at Georgetown. Wahab said, I feel confident. Wahab, who answered or averaged 5.5 and 4 point rebounds last year. I feel like last year prepared me a lot for this year. I'm just going to do whatever I can to help my team win. The Big East had announced earlier and re-announced during the media day that they're going to start conference schedule on December 11th. A schedule of 23 conference games in the month of December. The schedule begins with 3 contests on the 11th, Villanova at Georgetown, DePaul at Seton Hall, and St. John's at Connecticut. UConn will be playing its first Big East game since rejoining the conference for this season. The remainder of the conference schedule will be announced at a later date. All tip-off times and television designations will be released in the near future. And there again, a link to an article about the same below. Here's the slate that they put out. The 11th, as was said before, Villanova, Georgetown, DePaul at Seton Hall, St. John's, Connecticut. On the 12th, Xavier at Providence. On the 13th, Connecticut at Georgetown. 14th, St. John's at Butler, DePaul at Villanova, Marquette at Creighton. On the 15th, Seton Hall at Xavier. On the 16th, Butler at Villanova. On the 17th, Creighton at St. John's, Connecticut at Providence, Seton Hall at Marquette. On the 18th, Xavier at DePaul. On the 20th, Creighton at Connecticut, Marquette at Xavier, Providence at Seton Hall, Georgetown at St. John's. And finally, on the 23rd of December, Xavier at Creighton, Georgetown at Seton Hall, Providence at Butler, Villanova at Marquette, and Connecticut at DePaul. Okay, on to some of the sweet stuff. The 2020 Big East preseason player of the year and preseason freshman of the year and the all Big East teams. Marcus Zagorowski of Creighton, the junior guard, was picked as the preseason Big East player of the year. The Big East freshman of the year, Dawson Garcia, incoming Frosh at Marquette. Uh, 2020-2021 Big East preseason honors. Big East preseason player of the year, Zagorowski. Big East preseason freshman, Dawson Garcia. Preseason All Big East first team, Charlie Moore of DePaul. David Duke, Charlie Moore guard at DePaul. David Duke guard at Providence. Sandro Mamukashvili forward from Seton Hall. Mamu was unanimous. Colin Gillespie, guard at Villanova, also unanimous. And Jeremiah Robinson Earl, my boy, JRE, forward from Villanova. Continuing on, preseason All Big East second team. Bryce Nees at Butler, forward. James Bouknight, guard at Connecticut. Mitch Ballack, guard at Creighton. Nate Watson, senior at Providence. Justin Moore, guard at Villanova. And Paul Scruggs at guard at Xavier. Preseason All Big East honorable mention. My boy, DJ Carton, guard, Marquette, transfer from Ohio State, and Bryce Aiken, guard at Seton Hall's graduate transfer from Harvard. Evidently, there was a tie, so they had 6 on the Big East second team. I don't know where the tie was, but I can't tell from the way they listed it. But evidently, there was a tie, and voting allowed for an additional 6th man on the second team, all Big East. Carton and Aiken, while we're here. Carton, I think, along with the returnees from Marquette, is going to be, and of course Garcia, but the returnees from Marquette with a playmaking pass first guard in Carton. I think Carton's more than going to offset the loss of Howard, and I think Carton is going to elevate the Warriors into the top 5. The same with Bryce Aiken at Seton Hall, provided Aiken has a history of illness or injury, so provided he can stay healthy. But those 2 guys worthy of honorable mention, and I think they're going to be big difference makers in the conference this season. Big East Hoops Notebook from Fanta, 3 questions to ponder. He leads in talking about at that time, the upcoming media day. Number 1, where does UConn fit in the standings and its return to the conference? The Huskies are back and they're loaded with debt. You almost feel like you have 7 or 8 different starters, said Coach Stan Hurley following UConn's first practice on Friday. The Huskies return over 70% of the scoring and bring in a top 25 recruiting class. More importantly, UConn learned how to close games last season, winning 8 of their final 10. Quote, we're not going to get seduced into thinking we've arrived, said Hurley. We're still climbing the mountain. It's a good point and a good point of view from the coach, in spite of all the picks for 4th place that everybody's giving the Huskies. He's taking a conservative and a cautious approach, which is the smart thing to do. Okay, number 2, who's the best player in the Big East? There's a consensus for the most part on how this debate begins with Villanova senior Colin Gillespie, Creighton junior Marcus Zagorowski making national preseason headlines. Just last week, Andy Katz named both players to his top 10 candidates for National Player of the Year. So while there are others options that one could argue for the Big East top player beyond these 2 guards, the conversation should begin with Zagorowski and Gillespie, who have proved themselves and earned that respect. Number 3, how does the middle of the conference shape up? Having talked with multiple coaches and national basketball experts, a statement that rang true when they are asked about the middle of the Big East, quote, flip a coin, unquote. And there's a lot more that Fanta included in his 3 questions, but I didn't want to put the whole darn article on the slide. So hit the link below, and that way you can read the entirety of Fanta's 3 questions to ponder. Okay. And that pretty much wraps it up. It's pretty quick. Maybe I should have read more of those reviews from 7 to 11. But anyway, that's everything. And stay safe, wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands. And when a vaccine comes out, get the vaccine whenever it comes out. This is Gitmo signing out. Take care. Sayonara. Ciao. Have a good one.